Welcome to the CADWOLF tutorial on bubble charts. So for this tutorial, we're going to jump into a quick example and explain what a bubble chart is. Then we're going to have a discussion of the plot dialog for this item and show what's available to you. And then we're going to give a quick detailed example of all the things you can do with the bubble chart. So let's go ahead and jump into one of our test documents. As you can see here, we've created X, Y, and Z variables, X1, Y1, Z1, 1, 2, and 3 for our data. So we're going to create a chart by clicking on the icon. The plot dialog comes up, and we're going to select a bubble chart. All right, let's go ahead and add a data set. And we'll start off with some data, the X1 variable that we created, and we'll do Y1 and Z1. So right away you can see the difference between a bubble chart and a normal line chart would be that you have X, Y, and Z data and not just X and Y. So the X and Y data place it along the X and Y axis, and the Z data tells it how big that bubble is. So we can go over to our appearance and add some labels, and you can see the values for each of those bubbles. So the X and Y place it, and the Z tells you how wide the bubble is. So let's look at our plot dialog. So the main area here is our plot section, where the plot will appear just as it appears on the document. On the right side, you have the edit section, or the format section. This is where you add and delete all of your data and other items and edit them. Within that format section, we have various other sections. The top right there, as you saw, is where you select what type of chart you're going to be working on. Just beneath that is where you select the type of variable within the chart you're working on, be it the data, the format, an axis, or a band. You're going to see this in a second. In the middle there, you have a section where when you're working on data or axes or something like that, you select the instance that you're working on. You can also add and delete instances from here. And once you've selected an instance of an item, the area at the bottom will be populated with its details, and you can edit those within this section. You can see how all these work here in just a second. But first, let's look at all the items you can select from to edit. For the data, you can add and delete data sets, select X, Y, and Z data, set the axes, and change the appearance of the data. The format lets you hide and show the title and subtitle, as well as edit them, change the size and margins of the plot, and edit the legend. The X and Y axes will let you add and delete axes of those types. You can edit their setup, be this linear or logarithmic, their placement, their appearance, as well as the major and minor tick marks for each axis. For the bands, you can add and delete instances of a band, set where they start and end, set the axis they lay on, and their color. The lines option lets you do the same thing with lines, just add and delete them, set their location, the axis they lay on, and the color. And the text option lets you add text, and within those texts you can embed equations as well. You set the location, the size, and the color of the text objects here. Let's go back to our plot and take a look at some of those. Let's start off by, let's add another data set. Here, remember we created 3 sets of data, and we plotted one here, represented by X1, Y1, and Z1. So let's add a second one, select it so that we're editing it, and you can see that the variables at the bottom are populated, again with nothing since we haven't set anything here. We'll enter Z2. Start with X, X2, Y2, and Z2. So as you saw, once we changed that Z value, the bubbles changed, the size of the bubbles changed correspondingly. So we can add a third data set, and we'll enter that third set of data that I created by entering Z3, Y3, and X3. Alright, once you've done that, you see you have 3 sets of data there, represented the value of Z by the size of the bubble, and they set on the proper X and Y location. So this is a bubble chart. So just like lines, splines, columns, and bars, you have a whole lot of options in the appearance. You can set the labels, all sorts of other things. So let's take a look at a band. We select the bands to edit, add an instance, select that instance, and let's say we want that band to start at 7.5 and run till 10. obviously it doesn't show yet because we haven't set the axis we want it to be on. We'll select the default y-axis, and there it is. Now remember, every chart is created with a default x and y axis. So we switch to lines, add a line instance, select it, and then set its value to be 3, and we're going to set the width of pixels to be 3 as well. We put it on the x-axis this time, and you can barely see it because it's yellow, but we'll change it to gray so that you can see it better. And there it is. Alright, so now let's take a look at adding and editing text. We'll switch over to the chart text, add an instance, and you can see the default text appears in the top left there. Now, within text, you can obviously type any text value, but if you want to show the value of a variable, you have to preface that variable with a hashtag. So remember, every variable is an object, and so like a single number would be the index of 0, 0. So let's say we want to look at the x2 or z2 value here at 0, 0. We preface it with a hashtag and then z2, 0, 0, and it shows the value instead of the actual text. Then we switch the location to be a little closer to the center. And you can change the size and color of the text as well if you want to. Alright, so let's go back over to the format here. And we'll turn on the title and give it a quick simple title so you can see how it's updated. Remember, we're hitting enter after we finish editing all these things. Do the same thing with a subtitle. And let's go ahead and switch around the location and setup of the legend here so you can see how that works. So the default is always that it's a horizontal legend and it's at the center bottom. We'll change it to vertical, we'll put it on the right, and let's put it at the middle. So obviously you don't want it on top of your chart most of the time. So what we'll do here is we'll set the margin on the right side to be 100. And you've got a little more space at the bottom since the legend isn't there anymore, so we can set that to 10. We'll see if that, okay, so the labels for the axis can't show if the margin is that small, so we'll set it to 30. And there you have it. So we've changed the title and the setup and appearance of the legend. And that's what you can do in formatting. Alright, so there's our bubble chart. We can simply close this window now, and the chart will appear just as it appears there within our document. Now you can add as many sets of data as you want, just like a line or a column chart. And that'll do it for the CADWOLF tutorial on bubble charts. Remember, within the documentation workspace, there is all sorts of discussions about what edit properties are available to you. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter.